is here, but are you ready? I'll tell you 5 things you might get wrong about cleanup week. Stay tuned. This is important. Plus, the Broadway Corridor study virtual public comment period is open. But how do you participate and why should you? We'll cover all of that and more as we get ready for this week ahead. Hey everyone, good morning and thanks for joining me on This Week Ahead. We'll talk about 5 things you should know about cleanup week shortly. Stick around, but first, I want to draw your attention to a very important project that we need your help with. Roundabouts, better pedestrian access. I'm running out of ways to motivate you into chiming in on our Broadway Corridor study that is currently open to the public. It's a big lift. And that could mean big changes on our busiest street in the city. What do you think? What do you want? It all matters. But you do need to tell us. There's a survey you can take right now at movingbroadway.com. But how do you do that? What is on the table and why do you need to help us? Questions that are actually all above my pay grade. So let's bring someone in at the correct pay grade. For an unprecedented third appearance with me on This Week Ahead, our traffic engineer and I guess my co-host, it seems, Stefan Jers. Stefan, I'm going to probably have to give you an executive producer credit on this show.
I like it. I agree.
Okay, Stefan, we're talking about public comments on the Broadway Corridor study. I want you to help us understand how to do that. But first, let's talk about what the study has found and how that will actually impact us.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. Leading up to this point, we've kind of focused on the what and the why of Broadway. What is it, what it is. So we kind of focused on, the accesses, the safety of the corridor, the operations. Leading up to this point, we could see stuff visually, empirically, but we actually have quantitative facts that we can go with this study. It's an access management, you could say, nightmare. There's in certain stretches of Broadway, there's over 500% more accesses than what a DOT highway should be. And that kind of correlates to the safety aspect. This whole corridor is above average on considering crash rates. And there's certain stretches of it, certain intersections that are significantly above what's even critical. So leading up to this point, we can quantify that. So now we kind of roll into the next step. How do we fix things? This is where we need public input. Derek, I'm a City of Minot resident. I know you are too. Hopefully the people listening to this are City of Minot residents. We all drive this road, if not every day, at least weekly. So this is our time right now to decide how we want to build that road in the future. And this is where we provide input. If you like alternatives, if you like roundabouts, if you like traffic signals, this is the time to make that input. Not 5 years, 7 years down the line when we're actually in construction. It's right now, so we can actually phase that in as we move forward.
So you've identified a few problems for us and some solutions, like a 2-lane roundabout. I'm just jazzed to see that become a reality. But what, Stefan, as we're in this very important phase of a massive, I don't know if we can understate how big of a lift this actually is, this study. But what do you need from us and why should we participate and weigh in on this specific corridor study for Broadway?
So this is, you could say, a massive undertaking. For a study of this scale in Minot, we really haven't had one for a specific transportation study like this. And this is the heart of, Broadway is the heart of Minot. And we're studying literally from northern city limits to southern city limits. So it's a big undertaking. We're working with the DOT. They have staff that specializes in this. And then we're also bringing on a few consultants that specialize in this field. So big undertaking. It's going to take about a year in total to do this. And then why? This is the heart of Broadway. This is what is Minot. as far as a transportation network.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to share your screen with us, Stefan. I kind of want to ask you how this whole process works. We have a website out there now. You can see that. You can see the URL at the bottom of your screen. It's movingbroadway.com that we want people to go through. But since we're still doing kind of COVID-related things, this is a virtual tour. There's videos that you can watch that give you some of the context of the things we're looking for your input on, that kind of explains things. But then we need some actual actions from people. Can you walk us through a little bit of what we need to do on movingbroadway.com?
Yeah, correct. Here, Derek, I hope you can see my screen here.
Yeah,
so movingbroadway.com, this is, like you said, this is where the public input meeting is happening. With COVID, we had to transition from the more traditional route, which is the in-person meeting. We still like those, but this really is a good solution, a good alternative that we can rely on. And it kind of gives flexibility into people's schedules. If you can't make an evening meeting one night, you can really catch this, on a coffee break or in the evening after you put the kids to bed. So movingbroadway.com kind of has everything you need here. I'll scroll through it quickly, and then we'll go back into the survey, which is the part that really is important. That's where you can register your comments and your opinions. But I want to highlight, we have a live question and answer period, 2 of them on May 5th for 20th Avenue South. This is the part that's going to be reconstructed. The soonest, so we want to give special attention to that section. And then on May 6th from 12 to 1, we're going to have a live question and answer period for north of 20th Avenue South. And that stretches all the way to the northern city limits, the bypass. Then we have the survey here. There is an interactive map that we can go on, but I want to quickly touch on some of the other documents on here. If you got time, there's the schedule, some of our existing conditions reports. This highlights what Broadway is now. It talks about traffic volumes, safety, operations, kind of deals with aspects about that. Then there's also future conditions report. How is Broadway going to grow over time? And if we don't do anything, it kind of further exemplifies the situation. If we don't do anything, accidents, safety could decrease, accidents could decrease, and accidents could increase, safety could decrease over time. And then there also is some alternatives, which are also highlighted in the survey above. And then there's also some videos you can walk on, you can look at. They highlight different portions of the Broadway segment. Since this is such a large area, we've broken the study kind of into 3 main sections. The north segment, which is north of 11th Avenue, which really has a different feel than the rest of Broadway. This is more of a rural segment, high speed. And then talks about the middle segment, which is from 11th Avenue North, Minot State, down to US 2. And this is really your core commercial fast food kind of area. And then the south segment, which is still commercial, but this is the area that it's going to be reconstructed first. So we want to give special attention to that area.
That's your spot for your roundabout, right?
Correct. Yep. That'd be located in video number 2 here.
The last thing I want, Stefan, is for people to be surprised if that becomes a reality. Okay, I want to make sure that people understand that that's on the table and they got to weigh in on that. Sorry to interrupt. Continue on, Stefan. I just wanted to interject that.
You're 100% right, Doug. It's an alternative that we're considering, that the state's considering. This is a state highway, so it does need their approval to go in there. But the state wants to be good partners. City Minot is leading this effort. If the city of Minot doesn't want a roundabout, or if the city does want a roundabout, the DOT will kind of go with that. But let's hop on over to the survey quick. So all you gotta do is click the Go to Survey button right here. Pops open a window, kind of gives a background on the study, some technical analysis. So what you can do is you can click on these question marks here. Pop opens a little segment box. You can watch the video. This is the same video that's on the other page. And then you can kind of read some of the highlights here of, we have a do nothing alternative. We always have a do nothing alternative that kind of gives us a base to compare. And then we have a traffic signals and access control alternative, and roundabouts and restricted crossing, otherwise known as R-cut. So you can kind of view this information, and then scroll down. You can see the figures for this as well, what it could look like. Specific design details don't have to be hammered out right here, but we're kind of looking for concepts. And then you can scroll down even further. Which alternative do you prefer? No bill, traffic signals. And then how soon would you like it? And then there's also a space for any other comments, suggestions you have. There's another tool in here that's kind of neat. You can join the discussion, and you can see specific comments that are located to that area. And then we repeat this process throughout the different segments. Broken it down to north of the river is its own little area. You could say sub area. And then the downtown core of Broadway between Burdick and the river. And then it's broken down again from Burdick to 20th Avenue. And when you see these areas, you can understand why they're broken apart. They each have a little different feel, a little different characteristic with Broadway itself. So we wanted to provide alternatives to each of those little areas.
Yeah, that's a good point, because anything like north of Burdick, it seems a little congested because we have so many traffic lights. But if you get towards 11th, it really opens up for a while, right? It's almost like a different roadway.
Correct. And we really want to be context specific with these improvements. I mean, a signal is a great improvement, but not always in the right area. I mean, you could say the same for a roundabout. A roundabout's a great improvement strategy, but it doesn't necessarily work in every location. And the same thing could be said with access control. And if we put medians down Broadway, they work in some aspects, but maybe not in other corridors.
All right. So did you have more on this one, Stefan? Do we need to see more of this? Because this is, I really love the tool that we have here. We don't get to use this for everything, but this is so interactive. It's a really successful digital opportunity for public input. And it's pretty intuitive too.
One thing I want to highlight here, if you're focused on a certain area of town, maybe you live in North Broadway, or maybe you're affected by south of the interchange, you can click these photos here, and it should pop up what the alternative could look like. This is the roundabout one. There's a median down the middle, the double roundabout, and you can kind of see how the parkway system would play into that. And the same thing could be said for the interchange, which is a little more unique of a situation than a simple stretch of roadway. Let's go back up here. You can kind of see how this is the continuous green tea alternative, where it changes with that. And the one interesting aspect of the interchange little sub area is how we're going to accommodate pedestrians across this area. One alternative could be a pedestrian underpass underneath the on and off ramps, or we could make them at grade. So kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, we're City of Minot residents. We both are. I know the people listening to this are. This is your time to, if you want the ped tunnel, provide your input. This is how decisions are going to be made based off this input and also the technical analysis.
We're taking comments until May 17, Stefan. And I do see in the comment section of some of the posts we put out calling for that pedestrian bridge or yay roundabout, no roundabout. We see comments coming in already, and those are accounted for.
Correct.
But we really think people should get the context of the actual public meeting at movingbroadway.com.
Correct.
So that begs a question. after we get to May 17 and that comes and goes, what's next? What are you going to do with the information that I give you? And when will it actually start to happen? I mean, some of the proposed changes will change what Broadway looks like entirely. When is that going to be?
I don't have a great answer for that.
Well, come on.
Do you have one of those magic 8 balls here and can tell me the year?
You know what? I do. What's your question?
How much funding is the DOT going to provide? It's really a complicated question, and there is some moving pieces with this. With the study itself is going to wrap up later this summer, early fall, and that's where we begin the next stages of the project. We're going to work with the DOT and then city leaders on how we want to program this into the system. Programming a project this large, even just the part that's going to be reconstructed, takes a handful of years with state funding. You can set money aside each year to kind of build up to that dollar amount that we need. And we don't know the specific dollar amount. If you look through the movingbroadway.com, the survey, each alternative kind of has a different estimated cost value. So that could kind of change if it happens in 5 years versus 6 years. But initially, we're kind of looking at that 5 to 7 year timeline to get stuff programmed with the state, to get the money built up before we put shovels into the ground.
Okay, so this is a wicked process. I appreciate you taking time to walk us through this. I hope this was helpful to everyone that's watching this. But I do want to give it up to you one more time, Stefan. Is there something we missed? What else should we know as we are halfway through the public comment portion of this big project?
All comments are appreciated, whether big or small. We're looking for anything and everything. Again, now is the time to provide comments for Broadway. It's not when the shovels are in the ground. Now is the time to be a little proactive, get involved. That's what we're looking for right now.
All right. Thanks, Stefan. A huge project coming up. Thanks for walking us through that. I appreciate your time. That's traffic engineer Stefan Jers, the city lead for the Broadway Corridor study. And quite frankly, the guy we should name that 2-lane roundabout after if that actually happens.
Only if it's good.
Only if it's good.
It will. That's an alternative that should work.
I say it kind of in jest, but I do think that would be fun. A fun little, maybe fun's not the right word. A successful little alternative for us. I'm all about that. But everyone else should weigh their opinion in at movingbroadway.com. Public comments are being taken until May 17th. Let us know your thoughts. Again, movingbroadway.com. Be sure to register and attend the 2 Q&As coming up this week ahead. South of 20th Avenue is May 5th, noon to 1. You can register. You can find an email. You got to do that through email. You can find that email at movingbroadway.com. And then May 6th will be everything north of 20th Avenue from noon to 1 as well. Join that, get all the details, movingbroadway.com. Thanks again, Stefan. We'll talk later. I hope to do a debrief on what we find out from the public here eventually. So
yeah, we can definitely do that.
All right. Thanks, man. Have yourself a good week ahead. Okay. Since its inception, Cleanup Week is probably our most popular and widely anticipated program. This week ahead, we will get our first dose of the twice annual event as it kicks off on Monday. While spring and fall cleanup weeks have been around since about 2017, there's always a handful of people that miss a few important rules or best practices, causing miscollection and frustrated households. Here are 5 things you might not know about Cleanup Week. First, the date matters. While setting out your trash on a Monday and Thursday may be a ritual for your household, it's easy to forget your cleanup week schedule is not the same necessarily as your normal collection schedule. Typically, the city is cut into 2 parts: Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, with twice a week collection. Okay. Except for holidays, I hear you guys. But for the bulky purge event that we have coming up this week, the city is actually split into 4 parts with 1 collection date in the section. To avoid that frustrating missed day, make sure you check the map You can find that at minetnd.org/cleanup week. It's as easy as typing in your address. Again, minetnd.org/cleanup week. Check your date and make sure you do not miss your chance to participate in this cleanup week. Number 2, know who you are. I'm not getting philosophical here. What I really mean is know who collects your trash. The city of Minot is about 48,000 people strong, but only a portion of those people actually have City of Minot sanitation service. Are you one of them? You'll need to be sure. This happens often. People with private haulers set out piles and they sit there until they have to either lug it all back in or take it to the landfill themselves. Avoid that hassle. We collect at almost all the single-family homes and most quadplexes throughout the city. We do not service apartments or mobile home parks. If you're unsure, just check your trash bin. If it's tan, then you can. That was a little cringy. Sorry about that. You look for that City of Minot logo right on the side. It should be right there, and that will tell you if you can participate in Cleanup Week. Now, number 3. Location, location, location. We've already established that your address matters for this program, but so does your collection point. There are many people that have alley collection throughout the entire city. And if that's you, you'll have 2 points of collection. Your usual collection cart should go exactly where it always does, in the alley. But your additional piles for cleanup week belong in the front. I know it can be confusing, but here's why that's that way. Alleys are way more narrow roadways. If everyone piles refuse in the alley, it could be very difficult to travel through. It can get really congested. Also, the process of collecting during cleanup week isn't the same as your normal weekly collection. Crews don't stop at every house for cleanup week. They'll drive through the designated area and they'll look for piles on the street. Those piles are a lot easier to see if they're out on the front. So set out your bin as usual. All the extra needs to go out front. 4th thing you probably don't know is you need to leave some space. So if you're one of the many that do not have alley collection and your cleanup day and normal collection days are at the same time, you want to make sure you leave some space around the bins. Normal trash collection will happen maybe earlier, maybe quicker. So you'll probably see that picked up first. But if the truck comes by and you have a mattress leaning against the bin and trash bags piled all around it, it's going to be very hard for us to actually pick it up and collect it like we typically do. That arm needs some space to wrap around the bin. So leave just a little bit of wiggle room. Number 5, don't fret. Hey, we're all human, right? If you miss your day completely, whether you spaced it or thought it was a completely different day, all is not lost. During every cleanup week, we also have free dumping at the landfill for city sanitation customers. So if you have a pile you meant to set out but didn't, take it out to the landfill. Bring your utility bill. You're all set. This has actually happened to me more than a few times in the past. Now hold on, but wait, there's more. Let me give you a quick bonus. What can I say? I'm a giver. If you get ahead of yourself and set your piles out the day before, they might disappear on you. That's because our crews are trying to work ahead if they can. Don't worry, they'll come back if you have more. But make sure you don't miss your collection day. Make sure you have everything out by 7 a.m. the day of to avoid any missed chances at this year's cleanup week. And if you have old technology like computers or printers or hazardous waste like paint and oil, take advantage of our household hazardous waste and e-recycling event at Public Works. That's this weekend as well, 8 to 5 at Public Works. It too is free and it's all coming up this week ahead. Meanwhile, coming up this week ahead, projects are picking up across the Magic City. It's a little slow going so far. It's going to really pick up after this week, but you will see some traffic delays this week ahead, road closures, and even some lane closures. The most important one to note is obviously Burdick Expressway. Expect that for the rest of the season. If you're looking for what may be closed in your neighborhood or on your route to work or the store, you can find all of that at minetnd.org/road closures. Find more on those at that website. Now, if you want to know what projects we have queued up for the rest of the year, you can go ahead and head to our website and find that out as well with the same type of map. It's very easy to use. It's minetnd.org/projects. Okay, that's going to do it for me on This Week Ahead. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget, we will have rapid COVID screening twice a week this week, Mondays 8 to 2. and Thursdays 2 to 7. That might be closing here soon as we start to crawl back to normalcy through this pandemic. So stay tuned for any changes that may be coming up on that. Of course, City Council is meeting this week on Monday, 5:30. You can watch that on your favorite social media channel or Midco Channel 19. The same with Planning Commission. That meets on Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. That's all coming up on this week ahead. Now the next week ahead, we'll bring in the big guns. We'll have Public Works Director Dan Jonason. It's time for us to talk about flood control and what lies ahead. He'll join me. We'll debrief on legislative appropriations and what the status is for the remainder of flood control. I get a lot of questions about that. I don't have all those answers myself, but Dan definitely does. He's as close to the project as you possibly can be. Tune in next week as we touch on flood control. Now, before I go, of course, I want to make another reminder to ask you to tell me how I am doing. We want your feedback on our communication efforts as a city. We have a team up here that tries to do our very best, but we may not get everything. Tell us what we're missing, what we're doing well. That feedback's helpful too. If you like what we're doing, and we should do more of it, just let us know. You want to go to minetnt.org/minetpio. Give us your thoughts on that, whether good or bad. Tell me if this program, for example, is valuable to you or if I should look for other methods. Of course, make sure you sign up for our newsletters. We send several out. One is 2 weeks. This one is every week. That comes directly to your inbox. You can get all of your information about your city at your leisure. Go to minetnt.org/the to subscribe to that. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you to make sure to tell your friends and everybody you know to follow us on their favorite social media platforms. We are at City of Minot. Of course, if you're watching this, you should already know that. But it'd be great if you can help your neighbors find us as well so they don't miss out on any of the information we're putting out. Thanks for joining me. This was a real treat, and enjoy yourself the rest of your week ahead.